Good evening and welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting, February 28th, 2013. Joe Melkin will not be with us this evening, so Carol and I will conduct town business. Our first agenda item is to execute the 2013 annual town meeting warrant and assign warrant articles. Okay, if you recall, over the last, I believe, 3 meetings now, we've talked about the different warrant articles, really focusing on the special warrant articles. And I believe when we last met, it was 9, and it's back to 10. So a very quick explanation on the extra one will be Mr. Ramsey, please.
At the last meeting, having heard nothing further with respect to the progress on the intermunicipal agreement with the town of Sherburne and the regional school, we made the assumption that we wouldn't need that warrant article. Apparently it was covered in the newspaper, and I got a call, I believe it was Monday, from the superintendent saying, gee, did you withdraw funding for the HVAC system? And I assured her that no, we certainly had not. We had taken off the alternative funding placeholder because we had heard nothing with respect to the intermunicipal agreement. So at that time, she asked that we put them back on. In consultation with council, we actually put 2 articles on to cover the substance contemplated by the one article, which is assuming an intermunicipal agreement were to be approved for either or both of the HVAC system and the so far unspecified capital needs for the region. So we have crafted language which we have shared with the region's council, and I understand the region's council shared it with the regional school committee to allow for that possibility should an intermunicipal agreement or agreements be approved by the 3 parties. Last night, I understand the regional school committee met and was not able to take any formal action, awaiting the town of Sherburne Board of Selectmen, which I understand is meeting tonight on the same subject. I explained the timing problem that the selectmen in Dover were going to finalize and execute a warrant tonight, and that our default position on advice of council was keep those articles on the warrant in the event that an intermunicipal agreement or agreements is in fact reached. So that's what we have in front of you tonight.
So if we can't get an intermunicipal agreement, then we'll just dismiss them.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. More or less housekeeping between meetings. Now, again, I want to focus on a couple of the special warrant articles, and we'll start with number 10, Article 10, which is the Council on Aging, and it's funding for a standalone senior center feasibility study. Now, Council Agent came in and did a wonderful presentation to us, but we had many questions. And first and foremost, the funding was for a feasibility study for a standalone building that they identified a property known as the Hurd property on Center Street. Now, at the time, I told the presenters that I was uncomfortable and I would not support a feasibility study that pigeon-toed this building on one particular property. I wanted to see the feasibility study on their programs, the number of people using their programs, and, okay, do you really need a standalone building, and what size do you need? So, given that the language has not changed and the Council of Aging has not altered the scope of a feasibility study, I cannot support that. Carol, I'd love to listen to what you have.
Well, as the 3 of us had made very clear at that meeting, because after you explained all that to the representatives of the Council on Aging, both Joe and I supported your position and made it clear that the entire Board of Selectmen would not support a very focused and limited article. That we wanted a broader article that looked not only at a needs assessment, but also at other alternative sites. Mm-hmm. Some of them that had been studied several years ago and looked at again.
It should be important and to be noted that the opportunity for the Council Aging to alter the wording in the request was there for the past month, so to speak, and that has not changed. Is that fair to say?
They have approved the language as you see it.
Right, okay. Okay, thank you. Number 11 is the planning board and they would like to add an associate member to the planning board. And I thought that was a great idea. They have quorum issues, and I believe there is an intent of one of the members to leave, so they have issues. It would be a non-voting associate member, and I think that's a great idea by the planning board.
Yeah, it's also one of the about 3 or 4 boards where there really is a tremendous amount of very legal, regulatory information to learn. So having an associate member allows the associate member to get up to speed on the science of their requirements over a year or two before they become a full member. Concom does it for the same reason.
Yeah, no, great idea. And we fully support that idea. Article 12 is a citizen's petition. This particular petition, Carol, you spoke on it at one of our meetings in the past. Would you like to start this?
Sure. So this petition, which requires town meeting approval before expenditures of more than $50,000, I'm sorry, a project with the value of more than $50,000 is conducted on town property. That would be property owned by the Selectmen, by the cemetery, by Parks and Recreation, or by the school committee. I think that basically covers who owns property in Dover. So for instance, and we use the example of, so it's a very broad article, and it changes the entire way we do business in town. We use the example of if the Chickering School PTO raised $51,000 to put in a new playground at the Chickering School, could they do it? And according to the way this article is drafted, it would have to go to town meeting. And that's just one of many examples.
Yeah.
So it's very broad. It was created because of frustration by a group of citizens on not having a town vote on the Sea Park expansion, the Carroll Park expansion of Fields. And they thought that if they put an article like this, it would force Parks and Rec to have a vote at town meeting. And it may do that, but it's everything else that gets thrown in here that becomes very problematic. So this is a much broader net than I think they appreciated at the time.
Thank you. Yeah, as we think about the examples that could come into play in this, if this were to be accepted, they're not acceptable. It would slow down or stop the town. It would create a huge legal cost, I believe. So in that regard, I cannot support this particular article as written. Article 13 will be the Dover-Sherburne Regional School Committee asking for authority to approve $800,000 of borrowing for the purpose of the HVAC system at the middle school. Now, again, we've talked about this at length. So this is, if in fact an intermunicipal agreement cannot be entered into for whatever reason, that the regional school committee will then go out and bond it, and this will give them the authority to bond that.
We give our approval for their
Yes,
authority
thank you.
to borrow.
Okay. I think we've been quite clear in our support on that particular project.
And for doing it by an intermunicipal agreement.
Yes.
So just to refresh everyone, that would allow Dover to fund it in any way we wish, and for Sherburne to fund it in any way they wish. And historically, or at least over the last decade or so, it's become apparent that Sherburne likes to borrow for almost everything that's capital, and we like to use free cash. So we would prefer to use free cash so we don't have to pay borrowing costs.
Okay, thank you. Now, Article 14 relates to Article 13, but it relates to the ability to enter into the intermunicipal agreement to pay for the HVAC system. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we'll see how that plays out in the next coming weeks, hopefully. Article 15. Again, a Dover-Sherburne Regional School Committee request for borrowings for capital equipment. Have they defined this a little better, numbers-wise or anything?
Not to us.
Not at all.
Okay, so this will just give them the authority, it gives them, the authority, the approval, I guess, to borrow, bond capital. Thank
And the
you.
motion will have the specific items that are contemplated.
Okay.
Can we assume that this is part of the on-site insight report? And
That's what I was assuming. No?
I inquired, I've not heard back.
Oh, and just so I know, you've inquired from the regional school committee or the school administration?
School administration.
Okay. I'd like to see them up their response time. Article 16. No, 16? Am I in 16? Someone correct me.
Yep, 16.
Okay.
Same thing, instead of borrowing, it would be the intermunicipal agreement.
Thank you.
So-
Okay.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, please.
just to be clear, where it says under requester, Article 14 and 16 are Dover-Sherburne Regional School Committee relative to the intermunicipal agreement. They have not given us any formal request for these articles. I have placed them after consultation with council on the warrant as contingencies should the intermunicipal agreements go forward. So strictly speaking, we have not gotten on those two items a request from the regional school because they did not vote to make that request. They were waiting to hear from the Sherburne Board of Selectmen. So this is on my initiative, on advice of council. Put them in case you need them rather than don't put them in and find out you could have used them.
Well, that's interesting. So you're doing the work of the regional school administration and supporting them and anticipating what they're going to ask for next week?
We're trying to
Is that
accommodate.
accurate?
Well, I would say that I would like to thank Ms. Pugash and Mr. Ramsey for their proactive anticipation
Thank you, Mrs. Lisbon.
of a possible scenario, which they proactively developed, okay, with little input and support from those who should be telling us what they need, to your point.
Well, it's telling, because if in fact you hadn't been proactive, and in fact they need these things next week, it's too late. It wouldn't happen.
As was the situation last year, this time,
Okay,
right, with the region.
okay. Thank you. Job well done.
Thank you, Mrs. Pugaч.
Where are we? 17. This is the rail trail feasibility study. And Carol,
Right,
I'm
so-
hoping you can speak to this.
I can speak to this. And I think, I don't have this is different from the one that we looked at last meeting, right?
I don't think the rail trail article is different.
I have last meeting.
Well, okay, well, I can't, yeah. So,
This is the language that was requested.
at the last meeting, or between the meetings?
Um,
Okay, it doesn't matter. Let me-
Yeah, I
I'll
can't say what we
update.
looked at. Yes,
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you.
I've lost track of time on it.
Yep, yep.
So we had requested a placeholder on the town warrant for the rail trail in anticipation of needing something. And we didn't know back in early January, when we asked for the placeholder, exactly what that would be. So the rail trail committee's been meeting every week for a couple of months now. We've got the feasibility study partially completed. And the good news is we've made a lot of progress in the last year. Hundreds of hours have been well spent. And we are now in the enviable position of knowing what we don't know. Which, you know, is as important as knowing what you do know.
Well put.
So when we look at the things that we know we don't know, we realize that not only do we not know it, but we do not have the skill set within the committee to do the due diligence that the selectmen will require when they get the feasibility study from the rail trail committee, that the citizens of Dover expect when we start studying a project. And what we need is to get some professional engineering support. And certainly Mike Angieri, our town engineer, will be able to provide some, but not at the level that we need to do the due diligence. And he will be working with, if we get this passed, he would be working obviously with the engineering firm. We also know that one of those important boxes that you check off as you're looking at this conversion is the whole aspect of right-of-ways. and what are the situations with the miles-long right-of-way that we have. The best way to do that is through a licensed site professional, an LSP. So we would need to hire an LSP to do the right-of-way analysis. And those are the two areas that we've identified as really requiring expertise. And no one on the committee feels comfortable either recommending that we go ahead with the conversion or recommending that we proceed with the conversion without first getting professional support from the engineering, on the engineering issues and the right-of-way issues. So we have asked Mr. Ramsey to talk to a couple of engineering firms, and firstly to talk to Fay Spofford Thorndike, FST, which is the engineering firm that Needham has chosen to do their engineering study. And he will also be getting a cost for an LSP. So hopefully by open hearing or so, we should know how much money we're going to be asking for. Okay?
Yes.
And we've also spent, we had received $5,000 from the town last town meeting. We haven't spent any of that, or maybe a couple dollars for postage, so that also would be applied. And interestingly, at Tuesday night's Rail Trail Committee meeting, representatives of the Friends of the Rail Trail Committee suggested that they might do some fundraising to towards this warrant article as well.
Excellent.
We'll have better for that.
Well, I know it's an emotional subject matter on both sides, and the Rail Trail Committee has done a fabulous job of being very visible, being open, and listening to and trying to answer every single question, whether it be negative or positive. So, you know, I would like to see this come to fruition and come back, because the selectmen have appointed this particular committee.
Right.
So I would like to see this come to fund this next step, so we're given the proper amount of information to make a decision on whether to support it or not.
Exactly. You know, when I think about all the research and the funds that we spent, whether it was over the years looking at the Carroll Community Center, before it became the community center, or the planning monies that we spent on looking at renovating the police station. When we go to the town and town citizens to ask for significant capital expenditures in schools or whatever, we do it based on having done all the homework first and presenting a well-thought-out, professional response to all the issues that are raised. And the Rail Trail Committee at this point says we're nowhere close to being able to do that on these issues, and we need the professional help to do it.
Well, I know there'll be a spirited debate,
Oh, yes.
but I hope everyone gives the Rail Trail Committee the opportunity to gather all the information. Thank you, Carol. Number 18 is the medical marijuana dispensary growth prohibition and moratorium. And Carol, can you speak to this one? I know you're a little more involved than I am in this one.
So back at the November election, state election, there had been a question on the ballot allowing for medical marijuana dispensaries throughout Massachusetts. I think there are 35 or so there could be, and minimum of one per county, and various other things. And that passed in the state. It also passed in the town of Dover. There are no, at this point, there are no rules and regulations developed yet by the state. They're working on it to help the communities understand the impact of this and what they might do to limit the possibility that a medical marijuana dispensary treatment center would be built in their town. So many towns in Massachusetts are doing what we're doing as far as putting on a moratorium until the state law is more clear. Some have actually already passed bylaws preventing it, and those are going up, I think, through the court and the regulatory system in the state, so we can let other towns sort of handle making law, and then once it's clear, we'll know exactly how to proceed. But this gives us this will be a moratorium, right?
Prohibition or.
Prohibition or.
Yeah,
Depending on state.
the final
depending on-
regulations,
yeah.
which will not be ready by the May 1st.
Right.
Everyone's bet is they will
Yeah.
not be
Right.
ready.
Right.
Okay,
So let's just allow us to hold off on anything but allow us to prevent the establishment of one
right.
until we know how best to proceed.
And the cultivation,
And the cultivation.
which can be done in a home, under the,
Yes.
sort of somewhat voted in from last November.
So the SPAN organization that works so closely with the regional schools on drug education and so forth has been very involved in this. And I believe that Bev Madden and Amy DeSanto have been very involved with the leadership of SPAN, and I believe they will be making a presentation on this at the Warrant Committee open hearing on March
Yes.
18th.
Yes. Well, I fully support the prohibition and/or moratorium until such time as the Commonwealth can figure out what the heck's going on. And that is it for the special warrant articles that will be delivered on the warrant. And the intent this evening is to sign the warrant, if we so are inclined to do. It will be printed and sent to all the townspeople on March 8th, I believe, or thereabouts.
Yes.
Okay? Now, I will make the motion that we approve the town warrant as written this evening.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
2 copies.
Unfortunately, when you get the town warrants at home, at this point, we'll only see 2 signatures, and since Mr. Milliken's not here this evening, our understanding is he cannot sign this because we're
believe
voting
that's
on it.
correct.
So, Carol has the second one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next agenda item is to approve a revised 2014 operating budget for Department 201, which is the Police Department. Dave, if you would, please.
Mr. Dolly, a system error resulted in you approving a police budget where the salaries were actually $87,000 and change more than they needed to be. The internal quality control caught up with it, so you've got this revised budget in front of you, which is an accurate reflection of what the salaries will actually be next year. So it's a bank error in your favor, and there's $87,000 less than
80,000?
87,000 and change.
87,000.
Which brings their budget to below last year's budget, for this year's budget,
Could be.
according to this?
Yeah, according to this, it does. Wonder why.
Oh, probably because of Sergeant Farrell's retirement.
Retirement.
Right.
It's generally
Long-term.
turnover. We bring
Long-term
people in for less money.
Let's look at
generally speaking.
salaries.
Yeah.
Well, that's a small part of it. And there's another piece, but yeah, for the most part, okay. Well, that's good news, I guess. In our quality control and the systems that we have picked this up right away?
Not as early as we would have liked, but we fixed the problem. We don't anticipate having it again.
Okay, because I would hate to be on the other side of the equation.
That's right.
Okay, do I hear a motion to accept the,
Sure, I move we accept for Department 201, Police, salaries of $1,731,525. Total expenses of $113,250, for a total budget of $1,844,775.
I second that. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Now, the next agenda item was we approve a new operating budget for the fiscal year 2014. and it's for the Norfolk County Agricultural High School. It'll be in a new department, number 604. And this came about, actually in quite an honest question at the Warrant Committee some time ago, and someone said, in discussing the Minuteman, well, okay, we know how to pay for the Minuteman. What if we have a student going to Norfolk Aggie? Who pays for that? And no one seemed to know. Now, Dave, I believe you know now.
I now know. The town has been a member of the Norfolk County Agricultural School District for as long as anybody can remember. Most of the funding for that school is provided either directly by the state through local aid like we get, but we don't know about it because it's a separate legal entity. And the remainder has typically come out of the county tax, which is on our cherry sheet on the assessment side. Several years ago, there was a new bill passed that allowed Norfolk County to assess a per pupil cost to the member communities per student that's actually enrolled there to cover any deficit between the funding sources I just described and the actual cost of providing the education. While this bill's been in effect for several years, Norfolk County only started to do it last year. Last year, we didn't have any students there. This year, we have one student there, so that's why we got this bill for the first time for $2,000 for the one student who's attending in fiscal 13. The budget in front of you is for next year, fiscal 14, and the hard copy in your packet is for a requested amount of $2,000. But I believe in your packet you have a document we just received today saying that we have one student enrolled who we assume will still be enrolled next year because it's a 3 or 4 year program, but 2 who have applied. So instead of the $2,000 that we're asking you to fund in fiscal 14, it would be $6,000 based on the enrollment data we have right now.
Okay,
So
excellent.
not 2, but 6.
So it's possible that we'll have more students at Norfolk County Agriculture than we do at Minuteman.
Based on those numbers, it is.
Good. Well, to spend $2,000 to give a student his choice of education, I think it's a great deal, quite honestly.
Orders of magnitude, an order of magnitude less than Minuteman.
Yeah. Good. Okay, so we have to approve the new operating budget for 604. So I'll make the motion to approve a new operating budget for the fiscal year 2014. It'll be number 604. It's in Norfolk County Agricultural High School. And that particular budget will be $2,000.
Excuse me.
Oh, 6,000. Oh, I'm sorry. I saw you writing the 6. I was wondering what you... Okay, 6,000. I amend my motion to 6,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, now, we all know the answer to that question when someone asks. The next agenda item is to discuss the proposed employee dental insurance coverage. Dave?
Mr. Chairman, for a number of years, we've been kicking around the idea of providing a voluntary, fully funded by employee dental insurance program. A lot of employees during the health fair every year come over and ask Jerry, our treasurer and benefits guy, gee, why doesn't the town offer dental insurance, particularly if it's employee funded? A lot of communities do that. My understanding is the region does it and the town of Sherburne do it, for example. So this is a memo requesting the board to consider offering a voluntary dental insurance program. The only cost to the town would be the incidental administrative costs by the treasurer's office, which Jerry is comfortable will be manageable. And we would offer this to all employees. The unions, of course, we would have to send them the requisite collective bargaining notice informing of this and the terms and conditions under which we would offer it. I think it makes sense. A lot of employees have expressed interest. We'll see if they actually ante up and enroll in the program.
Well, on the surface, I think it's a great idea. Getting to the details, why Delta Dental?
They're sort of like the big one in Massachusetts for municipalities.
Were other ones looked at? Or pricing?
Jerry talked to several, and he selected Delta as preferred being the biggest and the one that most people like the most.
Most cost-effective, because this comes out of the employees.
This is entirely funded by the employees.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with whether it's Delta or Harvard Pilgrim, because they offer dental insurance too, it's really not dental, it's not insurance in the sense that we think of it as our medical insurance. It's really a capped benefit amount. So if you look for, just looking here, so if you look here, an individual, $48 a month. So that's 480 and 96, so $576 a year in premium for a maximum of $1,000 in coverage.
No, that's interesting.
Okay, so this is for all dental plans. I mean, if you get through your employer,
Yeah.
it tends to be a little bit better, but you always have either $1,500 or a $2,000 cap. It's not like medical insurance at all, and it's going to be very important when they go through this at the fair that they understand, because we're not even talking 2 to 1, and on the family it's even worse.
Correct.
So,
I was just going to get to that point. It defines the cap for each member. Is that each member of someone's family, or is that each?
no, each member of the family. So if you
Right,
if you
okay.
do the family plan at 141, or individual plus 1,
Right.
so that's $960, it's almost $1,200.
Right.
And it combines to $2,000 in benefit, 1,000, 1,000. So people need to
It's a
understand.
modest
that there-
benefit.
In insurance, you're always playing the odds anyway, but it's a very, very modest benefit.
Yes.
And only of value if you expect that you're going to be spending more than that premium, because there's not much left otherwise.
So a family of 6 would benefit greatly.
Exactly.
Okay.
But an individual or a small family, the odds are not in your favor.
Okay.
Unless you know you've got catastrophic issues or.
Have you done an informal survey of the town employees and whether they want a benefit like this?
Informally, this is an effort to be responsive to persistent inquiries over time from a bunch of different people. Gee, why doesn't the town have it? So we finally got to this list on the priority list and said, okay, we'll see if the selectmen want to offer it, and we'll test the resolve with the employees and see what
So we'll
happens.
handle the administration, they'll get the advantage of having it taken out of their paycheck.
It'd be a tax advantage deduction. on-
Tax event, right, so the healthcare, yeah. And they get the advantage of a group rate.
Correct. And we're being responsive to their
Yeah.
request for it.
And if we are so inclined to get into this, is it a 1-year contract, a 5-year contract? If no one, say we sign this and Delta comes on board, but not enough people subscribe, is there any penalties or
I don't believe there are any penalties.
no benchmarks for a number of people to get in it or anything?
No, and because this is a broader group, it's not, this is not the Dover group only. This is commercial insurance being made available to Dover. I don't think there's any minimum subscription even.
Okay. Now, we have to take a vote to allow this to happen?
Yes.
Okay.
I move we approve entering into an agreement with Delta Dental for a contract for our town employees.
Okay, and which will be, the town will be at no cost, and it will be, the cost of subscription, so to speak, or premium, will be borne by the employees.
Yes.
Okay. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Okay, as we roll along. Our next agenda item is a special license, and we have one of them this evening. And it is for March 13th at the Boston College Connor Center. I don't know what type of event this is. Board meeting, excuse me. And the chief has signed off on it, good. So I'll make the motion, unless you have a question about this, Carol? No, I'll make the motion to approve the special license of March 13th, 2013 at the Connor Center.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda item. And hopefully, Mother Nature will help us going forward. This is a snow and ice authorization. Dave, can you speak to this, please?
Because the Board of Selectmen will not meet again until March 19th, Craig felt it was prudent to ask for another authorization, given the spate of bad weather that we've had. As the memo indicates, we've got a $73,000 balance on the books, but about $24,000 in incurred expenses which haven't cleared yet, so it would leave us with roughly 50. He felt it prudent to ask for an authorization for another 50, given that you're not meeting again until March 19th. This is an authorization, it's not an expense. Obviously, if it doesn't snow, he won't be spending money.
Okay.
I heard an awful lot of birds today when I was taking my walk.
Do you really?
I did.
Yeah.
Robins are
Good
back.
sign. Well, March 1st is tomorrow. I can't believe this year is flying by. Spring is 21 days from today. Okay, what action do we have to take on this?
Have to vote to approve the authorization.
Okay.
So I move we approve an additional $50,000 for the snow and ice budget.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you really see the effect of having these snowstorms on weekends. People get the overtime line.
Yep.
Thank you.
But, you know, in so much as that's terrible on the bottom line, it really frees up the roads
it
during the
does.
rush hours, and they can do a job, which they've done a tremendous job. It's like a cursed blessing. Okay. Okay, prior notice, maturing debt principal. Dave, is this you also?
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman, as you recall, the board authorized an advance refinancing of some of our previously issued debt last fall, and as a result, you're saving the taxpayers about $1 million over the course of the issuance. But because the debt schedule changed in fiscal 13, the actual principal paid for fiscal 13 is going to be $25,000 more than we had budgeted under the prior debt schedule. So it's a cash flow issue, saving the taxpayers $1 million, but it's going to cost you $25,000 in additional money in fiscal 13.
Okay, for clarity, it'll save the taxpayers $500,000. The Commonwealth gets $500,000 also.
Your thank you note's in the mail from the governor, I'm assured.
Yeah. Not in a map. Okay, good. And we have.
So why is this a prior notice and not a,
Only because should the reserve fund get taxed in ways that are unforeseen, you may want to do it through a supplemental appropriation, so we'll get closer, but I just wanted to give you a formal notice that we're going to have to do something to address that.
That's excellent forward thinking.
how is the reserve fund coming?
Other than the 75, I think,
Well, that's,
was it?
That's not the reserve
No,
fund.
no,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I
Has
don't
the
think
warrant committee
that.
seen it?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, that's great.
It's in very good shape right now.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I can't think of any.
I can't
Off the top of
either.
my head.
Yeah, if it is, it's de minimis.
Great.
Okay.
So I move we approve a prior notice of $25,000 for maturing debt principal.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. Back to Norfolk Aggie, reserve fund transfer.
Ah, funny I should ask.
I was just gonna say that. Can I revise my answer?
Well, this bill is what precipitated the whole inquiry into what's going on here. We received a bill forwarded to us from the region for $2,000 from Norfolk Aggie. As I mentioned earlier, under previously authorized legislation, the Norfolk Aggie School is authorized to bill on a per-student basis. This is the first time we've received a bill, because it's the first time in memory we've had a student at Norfolk Aggie. And this is an actual reserve fund transfer because it's an actual bill.
Right. Well, there is no prior department set up to appropriate funds for it. Good. Well, I totally understand what we're doing. And I will make the motion to approve the reserve fund transfer of $2,000 for the purpose of paying for one student at Norfolk Agricultural High School, Norfolk County Agricultural High School.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good.
Thank you.
Whose signature is that?
Jerry Lane.
That's Jerry's, huh?
You're gonna have to
That's
trust.
yours, huh?
I'm gonna sit far away from Just mean sometimes. Okay, as we move along. We'll approve the meeting minutes from January 30th and February 14th, 2013. Let's first review the January 30th ones. And this particular meeting, Erica Lert, who is our energy coordinator, came in and discussed her report for 2012, 2013. And we also started our discussion on warrant articles.
Did we receive a copy of the town council's opinion on that, on the warrant article? You had asked for, I'm looking at
Right,
line 63 on page 2.
I have not received that as of yet.
I'll have to double check.
Okay, just bringing that to my attention. That's an excellent point, too, because in the open hearing, Warrant can speak succinctly to it if they have town council's opinion. Okay.
I move we approve the minutes of January 30th, 2013.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. The next meeting minutes is February 14th, 2013, and that is the meeting where the Capital Budget Committee update was made by Mike Assetti. We again reviewed the special warrant articles. We put them in order on the town warrant.
I move we approve the minutes of February 14th, 2013.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. Our next agenda item is citizens' comments. Do you have anything, Carol?
You gonna do that
I
one?
can. You
Oh, okay.
can.
I mentioned at the last meeting, and I'd like to mention again that the recycling committee will be having their annual cleanup day on March 30th. It's usually a great day for neighbors and friends to get together and grab some bags that are given to them and clean up the streets around their homes. So if you're interested in participating and getting involved, give Amy Wilcox a call at 617-694-8815, or send her an email at amydwilcox@mac.com.
Excellent. And I might want to reiterate the fact that, that the energy coordinator, and there are programs out there, so if anybody wants to follow up, maybe they can call here or speak with Erica directly. And again, the warrant that we signed this evening will be mailed out on March 8th, so please look forward to receiving that. The open hearing for the warrant committee is March 18th at 7:30. And I'll back up just a little. The town caucus is on March 11th, 2013. I believe I saw that on the website today, listing fire department, the opportunities people have in town to get on the ballot. Good. Paul, do you have any comments? Then I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good night.